just wanted to welcome everyone along. This is a bit of a different webinar for us. Ordinarily Dan and I and others are talking about, various aspects of what's going on in the industry or, items that we, are keen for people to get right in their commercial accounting or tax accounting and all the various aspects of the, things that we look after. But this time around, we're actually going to talk about ourselves, which is a bit of a different thing for us, Dan. So we're going to go through largely because we get a number of our clients, have asked, how does the advisory service work? Tax accounting and our bookkeeping service, I think are services that, whilst they're fantastic, they're also a little bit easier for people to get their head around and a bit more traditional. Whereas what our advisory team does with our clients is really quite unique. And we thought it would be good to do a specific webinar that just does a good job of just quickly unpacking what is advisory, what are the components of it, and how is it delivered, and what some of the impact can be of that service as well. So Dan is here today. He's going to be taking us through this content. Dan is one of the partners in our advisory team, has a portfolio of clients that he looks after, and has been with the firm for over 5 years now. Before that, had various senior finance roles, to sort of CFO level, working inside businesses, which is a very different skill set to what you'll get from a tax accountant or a bookkeeper. Someone like you, Dan, it's all about the commercial side of the business. It's all about what's ahead of us and looking at what might be around the corner. And really trying to understand the numbers, what they mean, and what they're telling us about the future of the business. So that's a very different skill set, and quite a hard one to come by too. So Dan, I might now hand over to you, if you can take us through. I'm going to drop out. I'll drop in here and there, but if you want to just take us through this content, and then if anyone has any questions along the way, they can drop it into the chat. But we are going to try and really kind of push through this and pick up those questions at the end. So over to you, Dan. Go for it, mate.
Thanks, Phil. And everyone, thanks for having a bit of time coming in, saying a day, and obviously following along at home. Please drop in questions as we go or at the end. I don't really mind, but we'll go through this at a pretty good pace anyway. So what we'll talk about first is basically what we'll cover. So what we want to cover first is what changes I see in businesses as they go from 1 or 2 jobs to sort of kicking off 3, 4, 5 jobs at once, and then what changes in that business evolution process. I want to touch on the role that we play in the advisory service as far as shaping your systems, processes, and people to obviously build and scale construction businesses as well, and obviously ensure they're making a bit of money. We want to talk about our Xact Clarity platform, and obviously this is the reporting platform where we produce all of our numbers, insights, and obviously a really nice, neat and clean reporting pack for you as business owners to review. And then the really important part is the monthly review. So what are we looking at? What's being covered? And obviously transforming a set of numbers into a commercial story, and obviously making sure the future is okay as well. And the final piece I want to talk about is another service line we have, which is ScaleX, and where it sort of fits in the business evolution and cycle too. So what I want to talk about first is our financial control service, and we have 2 main service lines. So financial control is number 1. But what I want to talk about first is a bit of a story, just get a bit of a feel for generally what the problems are we trying to solve, what are the solutions we try and fold in place, and then generally what is the outcome, because we have had quite a few good news stories in, having the service line in place with our existing clients. So there's one client I work with in particular, I'll obviously keep it anonymized, high-end residential builder. He came into us, him and his brother. They were sort of, managing 2 jobs at once. I sort of call that being a job owner, and sort of grew really quickly to 5 jobs at once. So $1.5–2 million builds really quickly. And when you go through that sort of growth, your role in the business changes quickly, more cash flies around. And I think one of the source problems were, because you ran into a fair bit of hurt very quickly, is there was no whip in place, there was no end of month close, the feedback loop was almost non-existent. And what happened is we kicked off all these jobs, we lost management visibility, we lost visibility on the numbers, and then we ended up losing a fair bit of money, I guess, very quickly inside, I guess, the first 6 months. So how did we fix the problem there? Well, when you got cash and money flying everywhere, it's really important that we try and measure what's going on. So the theory is that if you can measure, you can manage it, and if you can manage it, you can then defend margin and ideally make a fair bit of money over time. So we had to fold in systems and processes and make sure the right people are on the bus to make sure we had the visibility that we needed to make sure that the business was okay overall. And what was the outcome there? We had to run through a couple of pretty challenging projects, but obviously with tight controls and obviously a tight cash flow in place as well, we could navigate the cash flow piece, wash out a couple of challenging jobs, and then make sure the future was okay. So we had a rolling forecast in place to go, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I know we're going through a bit of hurt at the moment, but with measurement and the finger on the pulse, the outcome is he's clearly making money. And we've done this with a heap of clients in our advisory division. So when you are going from what I call being a job owner into a business owner, you can sort of get away at the back of the beer coaster, work out how cash is coming in and out of your business. You know how much concrete's coming in because you have it in the back of your head. But when you have several jobs on the go, it's really hard to keep on top of that, in which case you need systems and processes and measurement platforms to give you feedback to go, is my business okay? And commonly where it shows up is, or where the hurt starts to happen, is that builders aren't doing work in progress. So you can't actually measure your profit month to month. It bounces around like a yo-yo. As you have more projects on the go, more cash and more contracts, cash timing absolutely flies all over the place. And I have seen this move by millions, but I guess millions of dollars sort of week to week, month to month, depending on the size of the business as well. Cost to complete comes secondary. So the construction game is 10% looking backwards, 90% looking forwards. But what I want to know is, with our existing jobs on the go, where are we going to land? Are we okay? Are we okay? And the measurement process behind that is monthly. And then usually businesses that go through high growth suddenly, especially when you go from being a job owner, is it's easy to slap in a lot of overhead. So overhead bloat is common. What I see with those businesses going through high growth, add that person in, add that thing in, add that bit of tech, plus, 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 plus. And then the GP that you are, gross profit you are generating, overheads chew that. And the final piece, which is super important as well, again, 10% backwards, 90% forwards, is what's the forecast say? So what are our current jobs? Where's PC? And what I find is the symptoms, commonly new business owners that come through, or people that are looking for a bit more above and beyond the tax return, with the utmost respect to my colleagues, commonly all these boxes are ticked when I go, hey, how are you measuring this? What are you doing here? And what I see commonly all the time, and this is the core pain slide, I guess, is all these jobs land on board. We got a flurry of activity. We have to get the jobs out of the ground. The job runs, the job finishes. Then you take a breather, then you look backwards. And I just can't express how dangerous that is, getting to the end looking backwards, because there's not a whole lot you can do. And commonly you've signed up a couple of more jobs, have the same habits in place. And if you are in a bit of pain, you're just setting yourself up again for a world of hurt going forwards. So the role that we play on the financial control side, or the financial clarity side, is we want to work with you and the business to partner to work out, have you got the right systems in place? So I'm not going to go through everything in the slide here, but we have to make sure that the systems that the business has in place are fit for purpose. And we run through these methodically with you and your team to work out, have we got the right systems in place, get the right visibility that we need, obviously to report back that we're okay or not okay. So we've worked with a heap of clients on this section in particular. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in there. And there are some game changes that we roll out pretty quickly with our clients. The next process is, you can have all the systems in the world, but have we got the right processes in place to obviously deliver on those systems and deliver on that financial clarity? So again, we work with the team, with your bookkeeper, whoever your key people are, to work out, what does the timetable need to be? What does the cut-off discipline need to be? So we settle the numbers. What does the forecast look like? Are all the reconciliations done? Close enough generally isn't good enough in this game. And then we report the same pack, the same numbers, and we want a heap of predictability behind the processes that we push into the business as well. So we partner with businesses to deliver on these, and obviously advise and recommend around the same. And the final piece is that the people is probably the third piece of the triangle. And this is commonly the hardest one to change. The systems and processes are generally pretty straightforward. It's the people and behavior that can be pretty challenging as well. So we'll obviously give you a hand to influence the people that drive the processes and systems, including our own people, to make sure we get the outcome of giving you financial control and financial clarity and the confidence that your business is tracking along okay, or if not, what do we do? So again, just clear ownership, clear roles, who work alongside your teams. And I guess a big bit out of this as well when we talk people is you get a pretty decent thinking partner. So everyone in the advisory division has either owned a business or worked in a big business, have a lot of scar tissue, and we can obviously share that with businesses that are growing rapidly and go, hey, avoid this, avoid that. This is what this numbers means, or these numbers mean, above and beyond to sending a pack out. So how do we bring all this together? We have a platform that we have custom built in-house. We call it Xact Clarity. We found that there was nothing on the market that could bring all the reporting systems together. So we have Build Xact and Build a Trend and JobPack and Procore and a whole heap of bits and pieces in Xero. But nothing was bringing it all together into one concise dashboard that was accurate, reconciled, that gave us visibility as to how the businesses are going. So once we have done the end of month close and brought a few things together, this Xact Clarity platform, which I'll drag across and share now, this is really the unlock to work out, is the business okay? How do we link everything together? And obviously present this in a way that makes a lot of sense. So it basically starts with the integration side. So we have set this up to plug into, multiple accounting systems, multiple builder softwares as well. And the way this runs is that we do the end of month close, jump into the reporting pack. And as you can see here, it does start to throw out some really nice dashboards to cut through the Excel spreadsheets and through some of the PDF reports to work out, is the business all right? So in this instance here, we have a really nice P&L summarized. And as you go through the Xact Clarity dashboard, you get to see more information, more data. So depending on your appetite to know where the business is sitting, you can get a lot of depth in this really quickly. And it is very dynamic and very portable. So start with the profit and loss here. There's some key metrics down the bottom. We have a really nice jobs dashboard as well, so we can work out what's left to invoice, what's left to spend. You can cut this by margin as well. And again, this is just a bit of a demo company, so you can populate it with, or you will populate it with all your own data, and obviously you build the software as well if you are using one. And this will give you visibility as to how the business is performing overall. And then I guess the big piece is if we sort of come on down to the forecast, what we want to see is, well, how is the forecast looking? So what we have here is like existing projects, when are the PC dates, where are they due to head, and then ultimately, what does the forecast look like as far as revenue and I guess gross profit goes overall? So the construction game is 90% looking forwards. This here gives you clarity as to where that sits. And as far as the sophistication of the reporting goes, you can report on unders and overs and forecast complete hours as well, assuming the data's good. And there are some pretty graphs that sit behind this as well. So minimizing this one down, that's our Xact Clarity platform that we use to report on all of our clients' businesses. And we sit down and go through this in a lot of detail every month. So we have worked with your team, the systems, the processes, the people, the cadence, the disciplines to get the data good. We have the reporting platform to report the data. Now we're going to talk about the monthly review and how we sort of bring all these moving parts together. So what happens is that each month, so we think about the disciplines that are sitting in large business. We like to try and the discipline behind large business is the business people, I guess the key people in the business get pulled out of the weeds, get together as a leadership team and go, what is the business doing, and work on the business for a period. So essentially large business goes, here's the end of month close, here's our reporting pack, get together and work out, what does it mean? What do these numbers mean? What's the story behind it? Am I okay? Am I not okay? If I'm not okay, what do I do? Or if I am okay, better to find out now and maintain the course. And then usually out of these meetings as well, just so it doesn't turn into a chat fest, we like to keep an actions register, who's doing what, who, what, and when, who's accountable, what is it, and when is it due? And then you rinse and repeat that monthly. So in this monthly cadence, you get a commercial advisor that'll pull you out of the weeds in the day-to-day in the next email, the next quote, pull you out, have a look at your business end-to-end, profit and loss balance sheet, and particularly the forecast, because what I want to know is, where's the cliff? Have we got enough work at the right amount of starts, the right PC dates in place? Have we got enough tenders in the funnel to make sure we're profitable for a good chunk of time? That's what our role is, to give you advice and advise and recommend and tell you whether that is the case. And I won't read all these out now as well, but once the reporting gets a bit rhythmic, a bit more predictable, we start to we start to ask questions around, well, if the business is floundering a little bit or ready for our next step up in growth, have we got the right people in the role? I get questions around, Dan, should I be insourcing or outsourcing estimating? Tell me a bit about job selection process, because the last few jobs we took on board gave us a bit of hurt. That is the next steps of going, where is the business and the clarity side? And then we just start talking about how we move the needle forwards. Right people, right roles, right processes. They're the things we get to talk about here on top of, I guess, just a little sample here as well. So what changes month after month? Well, if you can measure, you can manage it. If you can manage it, you'll make a fair bit of money. The other analogy I like to use is what changes over a month, and it's just like going to the gym. So if you go to the gym, you lift certain weights, you improve, or you jump on the rowing machine, you improve your cardio. You start getting into that discipline over and over and over, your body gets used to it, the predictability comes in, you know what you're in for, and having financial clarity on your business is no different. So the first few months are a fair bit of effort to get the data right and the processes right and get people on the bus and have the right systems working the way they should be. But throughout the year, as we start this measurement process and feedback loop and measurement process and feedback loop, you start to notice patterns of where you're gaining, where you're losing, and I guess overall processes to tighten up in the process. So what I mean by that is that you might get part of the way through a job, have 3 jobs on the go, and you might find concrete's blowing out. And unless you're sort of measuring that at the time and going, oh, hey, what's the problem with that? I guess our concreting, or I guess our estimating around the concreting, you won't know that until you get to the end of the job and go, hey, we've blown out the concrete by this or the driveway by this. Measure it, work out what that package is, and then you get feedback. People go, hang on, there's a problem in our estimating process. Let's change that straight away. Not wait, I guess, a year and a half, wait to do the job. Maybe the job costing is right, maybe the data's right, and you've already tended 3 other jobs in the background. That's one other example, but we want this discipline of month-on-month micro measurement in the business. And then over a year, you start to get a bit of a feel for, I guess, the direction you want to go, the money you're making, obviously supported by a budget as well. And you rinse and repeat that every month. And when you start to look backwards, you can actually start to measure the success very nicely too, but also looking forwards to where you want to go and where you want to head, obviously supported by that forecast. So just to wrap that section here, the financial clarity section is obviously us taking business owners through their numbers, know your numbers, know where your profit needs to sit, know where your forecast needs to go, what are the systems, processes, and people that you need in place, obviously, to enable you to have that financial clarity, including us partnering with your business to obviously wrap our heads around that and obviously coach and guide and steer you through it. We then pull you out of the weeds and go, right, what do all these reports mean? Obviously through the Xact Clarity platform. And in there is obviously P&L, job by job P&L, historic cash flow, obviously a rolling forecast too, plus any other little bits and pieces in there, which we haven't sort of shown in this webinar. Pull you out, explain what it all means. Rolling forecast is then checked. Where's the cliff? Are we happy with the risk, or what are the actions we need to do? Do we need another parcel of work? Are we ready for our next hire? And then we wrap and we rinse and repeat that monthly. That's the cadence that we drive into businesses. And we have done a lot of this with a lot of clients with a great deal of success. So taking a breath, the other service that I touched on before is a service called ScaleX. And where it fits is if a business has a decent amount of size, so I'm just picking a number, so call it 7, 8, 9 million, but you just have a leadership team that's starting to be developed as well. So it could be yourself, could be a construction manager, maybe a business development manager or something, but there's sort of 2 or 3 or 4 people on your leadership team. And when you sort of go past being a job owner to a business owner, you have more jobs on the go, you roll out of bed and go, what am I doing this for? What's our plan? Where are we heading? This ScaleX program gives you clarity as to what that is. So the way it works, if you want to have business-wide direction and obviously driving the bus in the right direction with the right people, is we start with a diagnostic. So we work out where the business is up to. There's a heap of questions. There's a scaling system. That work helps us work out where the holes, where the exposure is in the business. We then do another half-day workshop, or potentially split it over 2 days. And what we try and get out of this next workshop is, what's your mission? What's your vision? What are your set of values? that you can obviously clearly communicate through your business. What's your 1-year plan, 3-year plan, and 10-year plan? Like, why are we rolling out of bed and where are we going? We have a review of your organizational design, marketing structure. There's a thing called a people analyzer as well to work out how we got the right people on the bus. So it's simply capability, get it, want it. There's a whole workshop behind that. And then we work out of that piece, once we have our 10, 3, 1 year, what are our quarterly rocks and who owns those rocks? So in your leadership team, commonly they'll get between 3 and 7 rocks each. And those are going to be the needle movers that inch the business forwards towards its 1-year goal, 3-year goal, and 10-year goal. Now, out of that piece, we produce a strategy on a page. So it's really clear. It actually goes over 2 pages. And then once we have that plan in place, how do we gain traction against that plan? Well, we roll out either weekly or fortnightly accountability meetings or 60X meetings. So we get together as a leadership team again, and we have a small intro. We look at a scoreboard. So these are lead indicators to work out, are we obviously inching the business forward in the right direction? So it could be number of tenders out, number of estimates out, could be number of phone calls received or queries, whatever it is. We do a quick quarterly rocks review, like everyone knows what the rocks are. And again, this meeting is really tight, 60 minutes. We say whether the rocks are on track or off track. If they're on track, who cares? Everyone knows what they have to deliver. If they're off track, that gets raised as an issue. And the issues areas where you spend a chunk of the time as a leadership group, again, out of the weeds, focusing on big stuff that's either going to hold the business back or are blockers to us for us to deliver rocks. And you spend about sort of 35, 40 minutes in that. To-dos get created out of that, where you solve the issue at the time. There's then an actions list, and then you rinse and repeat that every week, every fortnight. And I guess the big bit as well is that sort of when we come to the end of the quarter, we like to do like a bit of an offsite for the leadership team. Hopefully most of the rocks have been delivered. We then pull you guys out of the weeds, out of the details, set the next set of rocks, make sure our 1, 3, 10-year plan is still intact. Is there any feedback on those? Agree what those rocks are, and then you rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat weekly. Get to the end of the quarter, do the same thing. So the process behind this is that cadence, is that rhythm, and that traction piece is really important to drive accountability, have measurable milestones, and that's how you inch the business forward. So that's Scalex as itself. You'll notice that there wasn't very many debits and credits in that, but it is more around business performance and obviously driving that next step. Generally, my recommendation is obviously having that financial control, financial clarity piece in place first. Make sure that's nice and predictable and boring. There's a nice rhythm there. And then you roll into the Scalex side, usually down the track. And again, depending on the size and turnover, and I guess the appetite of the leadership team. But this is how you inch the business forwards towards those goals, and at least writing down what the strategy on the page is. So the next step, it'll be a one-on-one. So the way the financial clarity or the financial control side works is we obviously do the end of month close, produce a financial report out of financial clarity, Xact Clarity, and then obviously get together at the end of month meeting, take you through what all the numbers mean, obviously look at that forecast, which is really important, work out where the risk sits. And there's obviously a nice reporting path that sits behind that. The way we build the service is that it's a fractional service. So if you want to try and internalize this level of service, you'd have to find a pretty decent CFO. Generally, they cost maybe sort of 300K plus for a half decent one or a really good one that's really good in this space. But obviously, businesses on that growth path probably don't need a CFO for quite some time. So you're sort of turning 40, 50, 70 million, in which case then we fractionalize the service. So at least you get access to a decent commercial brain, someone that knows how to roll out the financial clarity and control in your business if you're a bit unsure how to do it. And obviously steering, guiding, and mentoring you and the business to go, are we on track or are we off track? And are we running into any danger per the forecast as well? So 300K can be pretty expensive to roll into the business, but it is a fractional service. Generally what it costs, I mean, it could be anywhere from 3K to 7K per month. I mean, there's outliers either side, but that's the ballpark. And again, it depends on the size and complexity of the business overall as to where that price sits. But generally we have a one-on-one first, scope it out, see where you want to head, and then we do a custom quote off that. So where to from here? Reach out, book a one-to-one. There's phone numbers, emails. We're on LinkedIn. Google us. Yeah, we're obviously very keen for a chat always. Thanks.
I've just launched that poll as well, Dan. Thanks for everyone for joining us today. If you are interested in finding out some more and doing a more of a kind of, I guess, a one-on-one catch up with the team, with Dan or anyone else in his team, then you can press that button there now around the one-on-one consult. I know, Dan, we've got quite a mix of clients in this session today. We've sort of been talking through a lot of the builder use cases. When it comes to more sort of trade-oriented businesses, and you're looking at the financial levers you want to push, what are the different kind of ways of thinking through how you would solve for financial control, financial clarity in more of a scaling trade business versus, like the head contractor, the builder?
Yeah, really, really good question, Phil. And again, both businesses are in the built environment, but they again run very differently. Usually the head contractor has one or two lumpy contracts and you fold in a heap of different trades and employees. Usually with trades businesses, there's either more people and I guess more of those widgets, for lack of a better word. So the business model is quite a bit different too. So whether you are a trade where you sub-trade the trades, which I've seen commonly in C&P businesses, or you're a plumbing business with a ute and an individual, in which case, where the control needs to be is that you need to be able to measure profit and whatever the driver is. So whether it's crews of C&P contractors running around on a multi-residential building, you need to see the crew performance, not necessarily job by job like you would a builder. Or say you're running a plumbing business and you're a residential plumber doing repairs, you need to see the profit return per man per ute, or per man and a apprentice in a ute as well. So the clarity changes all across the board depending on the style of business you're running. But the trade side, the measurement side behind that is it's quite a bit different to your sort of standard builder. But you have to know what those drivers are that make you money and then measure it. And then you get that feedback loop in place and then work out, are we on track or off track? And then what do we need to do?
Great. So just reiterating, so the service that Advisory provide, there's two aspects to it. There's financial control, which is all of the things that Dan explained around doing a proper month-end close. We'll handle all of the really challenging commercial entries like WIP. WIP is absolutely fundamental for us to work out, what profit looks like from one month to the next. There's so much of that profit tied up in WIP, and we need to make sure that we've got a lot of clarity around that. And then very importantly, not only are we going to take you through the numbers using Xact Clarity as the tool for that, but we're going to explain what those numbers mean, do that sort of education piece to help you level up your financial acumen, your understanding of those key KPIs and measures in the business. And then we can start to look into the future, and we can start to look at where the business is heading, what some of the capacity constraints might be, what sort of job quality do we need to start to investigate to improve margins, all those kind of more commercial leaning conversations that you don't have to have by yourself. You can have, with someone by your side with the skill set that Dan and his team have as really strong commercial accountants. And then that service, I guess, is delivered on a fractional basis versus you having to pay for a full-time CFO, financial controller, which, as Dan said, is anywhere sort of 300K plus a year, which we know just doesn't make sense for a lot of businesses when they're in that journey from sort of 5 mil to 50 mil. You just can't afford to build out a full finance stack in the business from a team and talent perspective. And so we've come up with this solution around being able to offer that on a fractional basis. So Dan and the people in his team, very highly qualified, lots of years of experience in commercial accounting, and they'll look after, depending on the size of the business, anywhere between sort of 5 to maybe 12 clients each. And they get to know those clients intimately, but they don't have to be embedded in the business, because those businesses at that sort of size don't necessarily need a full-time resource. So we're able to make the economics of the service work because you don't need a full-time resource, and therefore we can have the team look after a portfolio of clients. There's a little adjacent upside to all of that in that as a team and with the portfolio of clients we have across advisory now, we get to see a lot of different businesses. We get to be plugged into the market in a very meaningful way in terms of what margins look like, in terms of market dynamics and dynamics in different geographies. And all of that sort of feeds into the intelligence and advice that the advisory team can provide our clients. So for those of you who are thinking about it, again, it's this fractional service versus a full-time head. So you get a really strong return on investment for that. And you have someone like Dan who can really help you traverse that scaling mission that many of our clients are on. So Dan, thank you very much. That was awesome. Really good to unpack that. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you are interested, reach out and we can set up a time to do a one-on-one. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Phil. Bye.
See you, Danny. Bye, mate.